Hi, I'm Nicola De Piezzi. I am the founder of the Thriving Business Mums Club, and today's training video is Are Your Habits Holding You Back from Change? I help mums with their productivity and their mindset because when you're in business and you're also a mum, our time can be limited and can often just not be our own. So it's really essential that we focus on productivity, time management, business systems, and also on our mindset, which is why we're talking about our habits today. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe, like, share, comment, interact in some way. To start with, I am going to read this quote to you by Albert Einstein, which is the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. And that is exactly true when we're looking at our habits. If nothing changes, then nothing changes. So if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, stuck in the same patterns of behavior that aren't serving you well, then things are not going to change and you are not going to have the thriving business that you're after. So for change to take place, we need to understand our habits and our behaviors and how they are holding us back. We start by having some sort of habits assessment so that you are really aware of what you're doing and how you're spending your time and where your energy and attention is being focused throughout your day. For example, you can do this in lots of different ways. You can grab a calendar or just a piece of paper, and if you're working on a particular habit, for example, when I'm working with business mums, we often look at where we're wasting our time. So if you want to spend less time on your phone, or perhaps you want to create a new habit where you get up a bit earlier, create a good morning routine to set yourself up for the day in the same way every day. And part of that routine is to do a gratitude journal or start journaling or do some self-care. There's lots of different ways that we can look at our habits and find out why we're not making the changes that we want to for the success of ourselves and our business. So the only way to know where you are spending your time is to assess your current habits. So it's a really good way just to be a bit mindful of what your current patterns of behavior are, because our habits are so ingrained in our lives. We just do them without even thinking. It's something that just happens. We often don't even think about it. We don't think about how we are talking to ourselves with that inner voice in our head, and that creates these sort of stuck feelings of just doing the same thing over and over and over without even thinking about it. So assess your habits. Grab a calendar or just a piece of paper and note down a little cross every time you do the habit that you want to change. It allows you to be really aware of what your habits are and therefore what needs changing. What needs to change to make change happen? Well, the first thing we do is look at our mindset and the stories that we tell ourselves, because mindset is incredibly important when it comes to our habits and trying to make changes and creating new habits. So if you're constantly telling yourself you don't have enough time, you don't have the right skill set, and say you want to get a bit more exercise into your day or change your eating habits so that your energy is increased and therefore your productivity will be better. If you're constantly telling yourself, oh, I can't do it, I can't stick to a routine, oh, I can't run, oh, I don't have time, then you're going to stay stuck in the area that you've always been in, and change is not going to happen. And we also need to look at our triggers, because often our habits start because something triggers us to do that habit. So for example, or the alarm goes off and you get up and that triggers your mind thinking, right, it's breakfast time. And so instead of having that space to do some exercise or some self-care in the mornings, your trigger is your alarm clock getting up, going off, you getting up and going to eat. So you just need to look at what your triggers are and what sets you off to go down the same old path that you've always been on. Now, self-sabotage is a similar thing with our mindset, but we need to make success easy when we're trying to change our habits. We need to make sure that we are setting ourselves up so that we can make the changes and we can stick to them. And we need to look at how you set your goals, and we will go on to that a bit later in this video. Perhaps you need to create some sort of reward system so that you can reward yourself for doing your new habit. For example, And at least to start with, every time you go to the gym, you reward yourself with a coffee afterwards. Or every time you do get up early, you do your morning routine, you write in your journal, and you do your meditation, and then you get your coffee. So that's your reward. And timing is really important when you're looking at making changes, because, for example, if you want to start eating healthier and it's really close to Easter or Christmas, or you want to be drinking less and Christmas is coming, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to succeed. So you need to be looking at making your changes at a suitable time that's going to suit your lifestyle. Now, accountability is important. Can you find a buddy or someone to help you with accountability, to stick to your routine? And you really want to be surrounding yourself with people who are really happy for you to change and want you to succeed, because quite often when you start to make changes in your life and you change the way you've just always been doing things, then the people around you, especially your friends and family, will try to sabotage you to keep you back in your old patterns, because that's where they feel safe and that's how they know you and have always known you, and it starts to scare them a little bit, and so they will try to drag you back. And it's just quite normal, it happens. So if you want a buddy or an accountability partner, you need to find someone who's fairly neutral and is really happy for you to make those changes in your life. And discipline, obviously this does come down to mindset as well, but willpower will only go so far, and by creating ways that you can make change and changing the stories in your mind, changing your mindset, changing your triggers and all the things we've talked about, along with that comes discipline to stick with what you've done. And if you're using a calendar and crossing off days when you've done things, that will help you to stay disciplined. Time for a plan. This is how we make change. Always start with the end in mind. So what is it that you want to achieve? Where do you want to make a change? And what is it you want to do? So start with how it will end and work backwards. And then you think about your purpose. So what is the purpose of this change? So for example, say I'm working with a business mum and they really want to create some systems in their business so they're not winging it all the time and running around in circles and finding that they just don't seem to have time for anything. So let's set them up with a content strategy so that that becomes really simple. That's often where I start, because it can take over people's lives and they either are incredibly inconsistent and do it for a little bit and then give up because it's all too hard, or they do it but it just takes forever and it doesn't need to. So the purpose is to create awareness of your brand, to sell more product or generate more customers and clients, sell your services. And so that's the reason behind why you want to start this new habit. You have the end in mind and you create the purpose behind it, and then you set your goal. So the goal is to have a content strategy system in place that helps with your productivity so that you're not spending your whole life doing content and not doing anything else. So then you need to break that goal down into your small steps to achieve the goal. And that's really easy. Number 5 is get the starting point. Start small. Start with something that's really achievable, because often we don't do new habits and make changes because it all just seems too overwhelming and we don't know where to start. And so we just don't do anything. We get into that freeze zone and that's not going to help us at all. So break your goal down into small steps. Find a starting point which just allows you to start, even if it's trying to drink more glasses of water every day or sticking to a healthy food habit so that you can be healthier. So find your starting point. Then you need to find your support, which is your accountability person or your buddy, partner. And like we said, that person needs to be really 100% on board with you changing. And then you need to look at the results. You go back to the beginning, start with the end in mind. What is the result you're looking for, and how will you feel, and what will your life look like when you get that result, and how will you know that you've got there? And if you can really feel that feeling of what it will be like when you're there at point 1, when you're starting, then you're going to be a lot more likely to achieve your change. So I hope that explains a little bit how we make changes and how we look at our habits to help us make changes, because it's often those habits that we get stuck in that are holding us back. I'd really love it if you could connect with me either on Instagram, Facebook, or my website. And like I said, if you've enjoyed this video, then please just subscribe or drop me a comment, and I will see you next time.